Hello, friends. Welcome back to Learning Nails and Aesthetics. We are in the Milady Cosmetology book, Chapter 11, Hair Cutting, starting on page 253. Keep in mind, I am not AI, so mistakes will be made. There seem to be some issues with YouTube. Can't see that it's anything that I've done. If you come across a video that says the content is currently unavailable or the comments are turned off, if you refresh the page, that should fix the issue. Also, watch my other videos, the Milady Nails book, their Aesthetics book, as well as their Foundations book, which is a companion to all of their books, so that one is definitely a must. I have divided different videos on various playlists so you can find what you're looking for a bit more easily. If there's something that you're interested in, please let me know in the comments. All right, let's start learning objective number 3. Describe the role of growth pattern, density, texture, and wave pattern to determine the behavior of hair. Hair analysis. There are 4 characteristics that determine the behavior of hair. 1. Growth pattern. 2. Density. 3. Texture. 4. Wave and curl pattern. Growth pattern. The hairline is the hair that grows along the outermost perimeter of the face, around the ears, and on the neck. The growth pattern is the direction the hair grows from the scalp, also referred to as natural fall or natural falling position. Cowlicks, also called whorls, and other growth pattern effects where the hair ends up once it is dry. See Chapter 7, Hair and Scalp Properties. I have videos on that. Cutting these areas with too much tension may result in shorter areas when the hair is dry, as it will fall in its natural position. Remember to hold the hair with 0 tension when cutting hair with growth patterns to ensure the hair will not shrink or stick up in these areas. The hairline, crown, and fringe are the areas where we often find strong growth patterns. Density. Hair density is the number of individual hair strands on 1 square inch, 2.5 square centimeters of scalp. It is usually described as thin, medium, or thick. The density of the hair determines the size and number of subsections needed to complete a haircut. If there is too much hair in one subsection, it is difficult to see your guideline and control the hair because the hair is pushed away as you close the shears, producing an uneven line. Curly and coiled hair with thin, low density may appear to have more hair. When performing a hair analysis, consider the curl pattern before making cutting decisions. Texture. Hair texture is based on each hair strand's diameter and is usually classified as fine, medium, or coarse. Understanding density and texture is important because different hair textures respond differently to the same type of cutting. Some hair textures need more layers, and some need more weight. For example, straight coarse hair tends to stick out more, especially if it is cut too short. But fine hair can be cut very short lengths and still lay flat. However, if a client has fine texture and thin density hair, cutting too short can result in the scalp showing through. Refer to Table 11-1 to better understand which cuts work best on a client's hair based on texture, fine, medium, or coarse, and density, thin, medium, or thick. Remember the following for each hair texture. Fine hair typically has side bonds that are easily broken and has fewer layers with a smaller diameter. Always handle fine hair with caution. Too much tension, heat, or manipulation can affect its ability to bounce back or recoil. Medium hair can bounce back well with average shrinkage and recoil. However, over-manipulation or excessive heat exposure can cause damage. Coarse hair is the most resilient and strong and can bounce back and recoil if it's healthy. It has additional layers and can defend against most over manipulation. However, excessive heat damage could require protein treatments and moisturizers. Coarse textured hair typically has the most shrinkage. Suggested cuts based on hair texture density. Texture, fine, medium, and coarse. Starting with fine, thin, limp needs weight. Blunt ends will make it appear thicker. Medium hair density with a fine hair texture. Great for mini cuts, especially blunt and low elevation. Razor cuts are good. A fine texture but thick hair usually needs more texturizing. Suitable for mini cuts. Fine textured hair but thin needs weight. Graduated shapes work well. A medium texture with medium hair density. Great for most cuts, hair can handle texturizing. And a medium texture but thick hair, many shapes are suitable. Texturizing usually necessary. Hair with coarse texture, a thin density, maintain some weight. Razor cuts not recommended. Coarse hair with medium density, great for many shapes. Razor cuts are appropriate if hair is in good condition. And coarse hair texture with thick density. Very short cuts do not work. Razors may frizz and expand hair. Maintain some length to weigh hair down. Wave and curl pattern. The wave and curl pattern, or the amount of movement in the hair strand, varies from client to client, as well as within the same head of hair. A client may have completely straight hair, no waves, wavy hair, curly hair, tightly curled hair, coiled hair, or anything in between. Wave and curl patterns can be categorized into letters and numbers from 1A to 4C. Figure 11-33 shows various curls, from straight to very curly hair. The types are numbered with additional letters. The number determines the amount of curl, and the letter determines the tightness of the waves on curls. Curl type 1 is straight hair. 2 is waves. 3 is spiral curls, and 4 is very coily. May have the appearance of zigzag coils. Remember, curl pattern and texture are not the same thing. Texture refers to hair strands that are fine, medium, or coarse. For example, if your client's hair is fine, then the considerations for this hair texture are the same rather than whether the hair is fine and straight, fine and curly, or fine and coily. Use the chart to determine your client's wave and curl pattern, the ideal hair cutting preparation, and possible considerations during the haircut. Type 1 hair can typically be cut with ease, either wet or dry. Types 1A to 3B typically will not shrink or recoil when combing or wetting hair. Consider tension when cutting wet. Comb the hair with an all-purpose comb and light tension, and allow the hair's natural curl to form slightly before determining your guidelines. Types 3 and 4 should be blown dry before cutting. In some special circumstances, moderate heat can be applied before cutting to ensure an even, uniform cut or trim. Type 3A and above may require understanding how the client wears their hair most often when choosing a style. Cutting lines or layering in the hair without texture consideration results in an uneven shape when worn curly. Types 3A to 4A may need to be cut dry and in its natural state for visualizing the true shape. Types 4A to 4C may need to be stretched or thermal styled for cutting. Always consider the client's hairstyling routine. The same haircut will behave differently for straight hair, figure 11-34, wavy hair, figure 11-35, and curly hair, figure 11-36. Check in. Define wave and curl pattern. What is growth pattern and why should it be identified before performing a haircut? Learning objective number 4. Demonstrate and explain the use of various haircutting shears. Haircutting shears. Haircutting shears, also known as scissors, are one of the most important tools in the cosmetology career. Figure 11-37 shows haircutting shears. Having the right type, size, and make of shears is vital to building a career in your salon. Your shears must fit you well and be comfortable to use. Haircutting shears are mainly used to cut blunt or straight lines in hair. They can also slide cut, point cut, and implement other texturizing techniques discussed later in this chapter. Steel. All professional haircutting shears are made of steel. 3 countries are primarily responsible for manufacturing the steel used to make professional shears: Japan, Germany, and the United States. It is important for a hairstylist to know how to gauge the hardness of the metal that shears are made from, because this is how you determine if the shears can hold a sharp edge for an extended period. If the metal is too soft, the shears will not hold a sharp edge and will need to be sharpened more often than shears made with a harder metal. When shears do not have a sharp edge, the blade will not cut the hair ends. The blades will not give the hair ends a clean cut, making them look frayed or damaged. This gauge is called the Rockwell hardness. Generally, shears with a Rockwell hardness of at least 56 or 57 are ideal. Rockwell hardness higher than 63 can make the shears too hard and brittle to work with. The shears can even break if dropped. There are many different grades of steel available. As the steel's strength or hardness increases, so does the shear's ability to retain a sharp edge, which means less frequent sharpening and maintenance. Harder steel tends to be more expensive to produce and purchase, but lasts longer. Did you know? Among cutlery experts, shears and scissors are clearly different. Shears have blades that are 10 inches, 25 centimeters, or longer. Scissors have blades under 10 inches, 25 centimeters. Technically, shears are used to trim hedges. Shear sheep prepare meat for cooking and cut fabric. Manufacturers began to identify haircutting shears and shears as synonymous terms in the late 1970s, when professional cutting tools took a grand leap in quality and design. Eventually, shears became the most common term for haircutting scissors. Cast versus forged shears. Professional shears are either cast or forged. Figure 11-38. Cast shears are made by pouring molten steel into a mold. Once the metal cools, it takes on the shape of the mold. One disadvantage of cast shears is that sometimes the casting process can result in tiny pinhole bubbles that create holes or voids. If shears with a void are dropped, they can shatter. Also, because cast shears are often brittle, if they are bent, they cannot be bent back into shape without the risk of breaking them. Cast shears are less expensive to produce and purchase than forged shears. Forged shears are made by hammering or pressing metal into a finished shape. The metal is heated to temperature between 2,100 and 2,300 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,150 and 1,260 degrees Celsius, which expands the steel's molecular structure so when it is struck by a heavy object, the molecules move. After the hammering or pressing is complete, the metal is cooled in water, causing the molecules to compress. Figure 11-38, examples of forged shear and cast shear. The process is repeated until the desired structure of the metal is achieved, thus making the metal much denser and harder than metal that goes through the casting process. Forging creates more durable shears than casting. Forged shears are easier to repair if dropped or bent, and they last significantly longer than cast shears. Some forged shears have handles that are welded to the blades. These shears undergo the same forging process, but usually the blades are made with a harder metal than the handles. The benefit of this construction is that the shears can be repaired and adjusted easily by a certified technician if they are dropped or become dull. Parts of a shear. You will rely on your hair cutting shears to provide great cuts for your clients, so it is important to understand their parts. Figure 11-39, parts of a shear: ring finger hole, bump, finger tang, thumb hole, pivot and adjustment area, and the cutting edge. The cutting edge is the part of the blade that actually cuts. The pivot and the adjustment areas are the parts that make the shears cut. Your hand only directs where the shears travel. The adjustment knob, when tightened, pulls the blades together at the correct tension so the hair does not fall or slide between the blades. It also allows the hair to rest on top of the blades so that when they are closed, the hair is cut on the desired line. The finger tang or finger rest gives your pinky an additional contact point so the nerves and tendons in the pinky and hand are less stressed, allowing you to relax your grip and hold the shears more comfortably. The finger tang also provides more control over the shears. The ring finger hole is where you place your ring finger. Do not use your middle finger when cutting. Only your ring finger should be placed in the ring finger hole. The thumb hole is the bottom hole and, when properly fitted, should only go to or slightly over the cuticle. The bumper stops the shears as the handles come together and acts as a shock absorber or silencer. Shear maintenance. Clean and maintain your shears regularly to keep them reliable and in excellent shape. Use the following maintenance schedule: daily cleaning and lubrication. Using a soft cloth or towel saturated with shear oil, also called scissor oil, thoroughly wipe the inside of the blades after each client. This removes your previous client's hair, reduces chemical and debris buildup, and keeps the blades lubricated to reduce friction caused by metal-to-metal contact. Proper lubrication and blade tension extends the life and of the blades and reduces how frequently your shears will need sharpening. If you own swivel shears, lubricate the swivel joint as needed. Daily disinfecting. Disinfect your shears after each client by first thoroughly cleaning the shears with soap and water and then completely immersing them in an EPA registered disinfectant for the time indicated on the disinfectant label. Thoroughly dry the shears. However, do not take the shears apart by loosening the screw to dry the area. Relubricate the blades after disinfecting them, as the oil will be removed during this process. Daily tension adjustment and balancing. Adjusting blade tension ensures your shears are functioning correctly and providing the best results. If the tension is too loose, your shears will fold the hair. If it's too tight, the shears will bind and cause unnecessary blade wear and user fatigue. To test for tension, hold the shears with the adjustment knob facing you. and the thumb handle in your non-dominant hand. With the shear perfectly straight and the blades pointed to the left for a right-handed shear or to the right for a left-handed shear, lift the ring finger to open the blades halfway. Then let the ring finger handle go. The blades should close 2/3 of the way, or at the end of the shears. You should have about 1 to 2 inch, 2.5 to 5 centimeter gap at the tip. If your shears need adjusting, tighten the tension by turning the adjustment knob to the right, or loosen the tension by turning the adjustment knob to the left. Weekly cleaning and lubrication. Once a week, carefully open the shears to a 90-degree angle and loosen the adjustment knob enough to allow a paper towel to fit between the blades at the pivot point. Then push out any hair particle or debris. Be careful not to over-loosen the adjustment knob, or your shears could fall apart. After the area between the blades is cleaned, apply 1 or 2 drops of top-quality shear oil to the space between the blades to remove dirt and debris. Do not to put shear oil directly under the adjustment knob. That doesn't read properly. Do not put shear oil directly under the adjustment knob. I have an extra word in there. Over lubrication may cause loss of blade tension, resulting in hair folding and bending when cutting. Sharpening. Only sharpen your shears as needed. You do not need to have them sharpened on a 3 to 6 month cycle or every time the sharpening technician comes to the salon. Remember, the better you care for your shears, the longer the edge will last between sharpening. On average, if you follow the oiling and adjustment directions just described, you should be able to go 1 year or longer between sharpening. When you do need to have your shears sharpened, it is best to have a factory-certified technician sharpen them, or to send them to the manufacturer for service. Unless you have a factory-certified technician nearby, you will need backup shears while your main shears are being serviced. I hope this was helpful to you. We will continue with blade length in the next video. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe, as well as check out my other videos. I appreciate you watching. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye.